What's up, everybody? It's Zach and Gabe from SwitchForce here with some interesting new Super Mario Maker 2 info, straight from Nintendo themselves. They recently conducted an internal interview with Takashi Tazuka, who is producer on Super Mario Maker 2 and has been a designer on the Mario series for a very long time, and asked about the origins of the game's development, as well as some of its coolest features. So we'll start with when Mario Maker 2 started, Gabe, because it actually began in parallel with the development of Nintendo Switch hardware.
That's really cool. This reminded me that Emily Rogers back in the day, she had all these rumors that a lot of them ended up being real. And she said, hey, there's a Super Mario Maker game in development. She didn't know if it was a full-on sequel or like a deluxe version. Luckily for us, it ended up being a sequel with a lot of new additions. And I thought that was honestly one of the most interesting things about this, that they've been developing this for so long.
Yeah, Tazuka specifically said, I don't remember exactly when our discussions about making a sequel began, but our development of Super Mario Maker 2, or at least our preparation for development, continued in parallel with the development of the Nintendo Switch hardware. We knew from an early stage that we wanted to make a sequel, and that the theme would be to try and do more than what we did with the first game. For us, those new ideas took the form of creating new game styles, new course parts and items to use in course making, and new modes for the playing side as well, such as story mode. Now, in a separate, but also recent interview, Tazuka touched on when there's a new piece of Nintendo hardware, like he and other designers are so excited to brainstorm Mario ideas. So I wonder if a lot of the Mario ideas are kind of birthed at the beginning and then realized just throughout the cycle of that console generation.
Yeah, that's something that as consumers we never really stop and think about, how long did these things take to gestate and just fully flesh out to what we have now. So I thought that was a very interesting tidbit there.
It's really cool. We think about, man, we brainstorm at the beginning of the week, what videos we want to make. Imagine getting to brainstorm, okay, hey, we're making this Switch. It's probably going to be out for 5, 6, 7 years. Let's have some brainstorming on what kind of Mario games we might make. And someone's like, Super Mario Maker 2. And someone's like, how about this new Mario Odyssey where he gets a hat that grows eyeballs and can throw it on other things? And someone's like, Super Mario Strikers. And then they're like, it won't ever happen. And
no, Steve. Stop trying to make it happen, Steve.
They're all crying. All right, so they touched on course creation a little bit, and letting people know that playing story mode is probably the best way to get inspired for course creation, because they have thrown a lot of different elements there, and talked about how you can. Says almost all of these story mode courses can be recreated using the parts and tools available in Mario Maker 2, so we're hoping people will play those and find their own inspiration for making courses themselves. They asked about any specific course part from Mario Maker 2 that he's really excited to see creators use, and he had this to say. Well, it's not exactly a course part, but this time we've also added something called clear conditions. By adding a clear condition to a course, it increases the variety of gameplay options for the specific course, and that's honestly one of our favorite new features. And so seeing how people use those to different creative means is really impressive. Even the simple ones that Nintendo has put at the beginning of their story mode, where it's hey, you can't jump, it completely just redoes the whole mental process of playing a Mario game for my hands and my head.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the super simple ones, hey, do a handstand on 5 trees before you finish the level. It just changes the flow up a little bit, because you would just go usually in a level that simple, but just the fact you got to climb. I don't know. I really like these things, and I hope that they can do something in the future as far as adding more. I don't know if they could add stuff like that through DLC, or if they even care to. But did he mention DLC at all?
Well, we'll get there slightly, but first I want to touch on the Koopa Troopa Car, which is my favorite new element in Mario Maker 2. And they asked him, how did this end up in the game? And he chuckled and said, well, first we wanted to give Mario some sort of vehicle to ride around in, and our inspiration for that was Bowser's car that he drove around in Super Mario 3D World. We felt it would be really difficult to replicate Bowser's car in Mario Maker 2, so we decided on creating the Koopa Troopa Car instead, which is interesting because obviously it is exclusive to the 3D World stages, and it's inspired by 3D World, inspired by Bowser himself. Maybe Doug Bowser came down and was like,
oh, yeah,
put that Bowser car in there.
Yeah.
No, I think it's one of the most fun additions, and to me it makes the levels that are created with that in mind feel so different, they're almost their own separate mode.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you've been loving the car. I love the car. I haven't been able to utilize it as much. I'm going to probably look for some car-specific stages later today.
There's some crazy ones. There's definitely some intense ones already. They asked him just any other comments for players or people that play Mario Maker, and I thought this was interesting and nice. Yes, one thing I can say is that we really wanted to put our energy into creating an environment in which the players would be able to create their own courses. So it'd be great if people created all sorts of wild and interesting courses, uploading them and receiving feedback and opinions from other players. We can then follow along and think about what sort of additions we want to include in the game going forward. I think this game will really reach its completed final form with this cycle of give and take between the game developers on our side and the players in the community. So that's not a DLC tease, but saying, hey, we're paying attention. You guys go make crazy stuff, give feedback, post your opinions, and we'll be watching.
They should definitely add like a creators pack of some kind where they add like all these new enemies and new items that you can use. That would be so amazing. I guess then you like limit people from creating, but as long as everyone can still play them, I don't know, they could do some really cool stuff. And hopefully with a game of this magnitude, because make no mistake, I feel like this is probably like the biggest game they have of the year as far as like sheer content,
size
right?
And scope.
Yeah, because it's infinite. It's run by us, hopefully better minds than you and I, but regardless, there's so much here, and I can't wait to see what they do. Hopefully they have DLC, because they've been really good about that this generation, unless you're Super Mario Odyssey
Or Party.
Yeah.
There's a empty box next to 3D World, so something's got to go there. So
Yeah.
eventually they're going to fill that, and I do hope that they see what people are making and either support and supplement based on like, creators saying they really would like more of this or less of that, more options, I guess, or different things that they feel like they're missing, but then maybe also some of just their own touch or different styles or whatever they can imbue. But very interesting. Obviously, anytime we get to hear from Nintendo and their top tier creators and designers, it's very interesting. So that is what Tazuka had to share. Let us know your take in the comments down below, how you feel about Mario Maker 2 really beginning at the beginning of the Switch development. And Gabe, as you mentioned, kind of solidifies some of those early rumors that we heard that they we're pretty spot on. And then the Koopa car being birthed out of Bowser's car from 3D World, another interesting tidbit. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll put a link if you want to read the full interview in the description below. Until that time, though, have a fantastic day. For myself and Gabe, SwitchForce out.